It's one sync.
I just like that we can use words like post
Production.
because I feel, I mean, like given my background, not with this, I feel very important.
You are very important. So I do like to think that regardless of genre, if you're doing podcasting or whatever, it has some kind of utility to people. Right.
100%. I mean, like that is, I think we're on the same page there. I mean, I think that's what this whole thing is supposed to be about.
Yep. And I guess I was thinking somewhat of a semi-traditional, like open that just says what people are expecting. Like what to expect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we came up with one.
Okay, let's pretend like we're recording.
Okay.
Sorry, I wish I had a slate.
Yeah. No, I mean, I got the mime.
It would be fun to have a real one.
The pantomime slate.
So Jim, you're my good friend. Now I've said it on camera.
Well, you're my good friend.
You're a good man, a good friend, and a senior financial executive.
Have been for several years. Yes.
Okay, so you do that for money, and you have some franchises on the side because you're a player.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
I've been in the video world for about 20 years.
Yep.
So we've both been pre-Chat GPT, pre-AI, professional people world. We're in our mid-40s.
I think they call us Zennials. Have you ever heard that term?
No.
Okay. So it is like, I think that's what they call us because it's like Gen X and millennials and like somewhere in the middle. And so that's where we are age-wise. And so there was a certain point in time, it was several years ago now, that like half of our lives were, quote, I don't know, just using tech speak, were analog.
Yeah.
And then like the other half were fully immersed in technology and learning as it blew up.
I mean, that's true. You know, I grew up in the woods. We didn't even have cable TV.
Right. I was in a trailer.
Okay.
We didn't have cable.
Yeah.
Because it was way too expensive.
Was it offered?
I don't even know if it was offered in the trailer park. I mean, there's probably like some janked up satellite dishes hanging off some things.
We had a Prime Star satellite dish at some point.
Yeah, not like direct TV.
Yeah.
No, these were like, you get like 5,000 channels. Half of them are from other countries.
And I started with dial-up internet.
Me too, on like a 14.4 baud modem.
Modems.
Beep, beep, beep.
Quick trivia. Jim, what does modem stand for?
I have zero idea. You stumped me already.
Let's make this fun, Jim.
Okay.
So what's the word codec in video? A video codec stands for code and decode.
Code and decode.
So what's a modem?
I'm still stumped. I mean, I'm going to sit here and look like an idiot if I don't just chime in and say I don't know.
Well, it would take something analog and it would turn it into digital.
Okay.
And then it would de-digital and make it analog again so it could go over the phone line.
Right.
So it would modulate and demodulate.
Oh, okay.
Modem.
Oh, man, that was... Yeah, the second part we'll really should have got. No, you can keep it in. I don't care.
That was not even funny.
All right.
Let's just start over.
Nobody cares about that?
Nobody cares about that. Let's start it. Maybe that's part of the trailer at the top.
Okay, yeah.
Hi, I'm TJ.
Hi, I'm Jim.
We are friends.
100%. Most days.
I've been working in... What do you mean most days?
I'm just... I would... You know.
I've been in video for about 20 years. You've been in finance for about...
20 years. Yeah.
So we're both in our mid-40s. We know how to do some stuff.
That's... Yeah, some stuff. A little bit of everything.
We come from rabbit ears. We come from cassettes. We come from modems, the internet. I had a pager at one point.
That was my first mode of community. That's how my parents got a hold of me.
There was a kid in my junior high school who had a briefcase cell phone. No. So anyway, that's who we are. But lately, you have been telling me about your adventures in AI.
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually just started. I just dove in. Like, so Chat GPT, I mean, you can, like, maybe we can look it up. Maybe that's part of the show, but I believe it was like November or October of 22. Is that right?
It's my
Or
first prompt.
November or October. Oh, is it 22 or 23? It's kind of running together now.
ChatGPT debuted on November 30th, 2022.
Okay, so I was right. Look at me.
And then it gave itself a press release. Within 5 days, it attracted over 1 million users. And it keeps going.
Yeah, of course. It won't stop.
I didn't know it would be self-promotional like that.
Well, sometimes, and then it'll also say, hey, you know, if you ask it questions about its algorithm or, you know, I don't know, just basic questions about like.
I'm going to write, why did you choose to share a promotional tone in about early adoption statistics
It was huge, though. They had 1 million.
rather than just tell me the date Chat GPT was released. Fair point. No shit. That's what
It said fair point, but
I should have just given you the date without the extra fluff.
Mm-hmm.
What am I doing here, Jim?
Well, I mean, it's all
it can tell that I messed with it, and it's coming back with a conciliatory humor tone.
Mm-hmm. You can talk to it.
Okay.
When you use the voice to interact with it's really interesting. I mean,
it says, I guess I got a little carried away with the fun facts. Let me know if you need anything else.
I think the default is always, you know, let's give them more information than they necessarily asked for. So it's like you know, you ask me for a little, but I'm going to make sure that, you know, I'm proving my worth.
I'm going to say thank you for getting carried away. It was fun to hear a reply to my prompt with such humor and levity. You're welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed the unexpected little burst of enthusiasm. Okay, I'm creeped out. So here you go, Jim. So Jim's the expert in AI. I'm one of these people. Okay.
Sorry,
go ahead.
before you go any further, expert is a little bit of a lofty.
There are no experts yet.
No, there aren't. But there aren't. I would say that I am I'm probably what you'd consider like a power user. Like, I don't really understand completely what's happening, you know, under the hood. And I'm hoping that, you know, as we keep talking about this, I'll get more and more interested in the industry and understanding what's really going on kind of behind the scenes. But for now, I would say, yeah, I'm a power user. So, you know, like in VBA, like way long ago, do you know what VBA is? All right. So Visual Basic for applications, just like Microsoft, you know, this is how you code stuff to automate.
I learned basic in high school.
Yeah. So VBA, I think it's kind of an offshoot of that. But anyway,
what's basic stand for?
I mean, I don't remember.
I think it's beginners something symbolic instruction code.
I don't know how you know all these things. I really don't. But I'm impressed.
That's not that impressive.
Well, I mean, it's a little bit of it's impressing me.
Assembly symbolic? No, beginners algorithmic. Sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. This is gonna be more.
Can you look
edits.
up ADHD also?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I think that's fine. We can talk about all our neuroses with ChatGPT now too. That's something else I've done. But I would say I consider myself a power user.
Yeah.
Much like I'm a mechanic versus an engineer. I can use the software. I think I'm starting to get even better at using the software and just applying it in every little part of my life. But that's only because I'm keenly interested in it and also learning about, how other people are using it. So, but I think as a part of this, I would like to be able to start talking to people, not just us, but people that are way smarter than me about what is actually happening under the hood. And like, if we could define it in a little bit more layman's terms and make it more accessible to people, I think that would maybe demystify some of the things. Because right now, everybody I talk to is a little bit like, I don't know how to use it. I mean, you even said that. I don't know how to use it. I don't think there's really much of a learning curve. If you know how to email, you're probably going to be decent at, if you know how to, actually, that's not a way to say it. We should dive into this.
An email client is a, okay, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking that if you know how to have a good conversation, if you're a good storyteller, then that means you know how to take your thoughts and convey them in a way in which somebody else would understand them. I think outside of a few technical things, and working around the margins, you can really kind of get ChatGPT to do a lot of what you want it to do if you can just be clear with what you're looking for. And you can do that through voice or typing.
Yeah, so like the memories I have, so I have just basically played with it. Do you hear that like feedback sound when I'm talking? It's like a.
Yeah, I hear some of it. Yeah.
I don't know what that is. Hopefully it's not. It'd be weird for it to be interference. Okay, doesn't matter.
Is that more post work?
Maybe
Can you do that?
It might be more post work for me, but that's an unpleasant sound I'm hearing at the end of every bite.
It's like a wave crashing at the end of every thing we say.
It could be the HVAC. It's okay. We'll chat about media production later.
Okay, that'd be
and
great.
What it means to take my office, and turn it into a little podcast thing. For speed, I set it up like this because it's easy. You sit down and hit the button, we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're tinkering. In the AI garage.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
so
no problem.
I like that.
Yeah.
So when we obviously, so we're friends. We're both you're both mid-40s professional people. You're in finance. I'm in video. When you started talking about just recipes and how you prepared for, like, we were watching football and you used ChatGPT to like come up with a cool recipe, give me the shopping list and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow, he's really applying it. But then when you started talking about your CFO work and how you use it and how you use it for everything from financial stuff to analysis to communication analysis between yourself and people, of a nature that's not like you said, you don't feed stuff into the algorithm that it shouldn't have or whatever.
Yeah, or
whatever you want to call that, into the model.
Yeah, so they have do you want to train the model? So there's a few ways around that. You're not training the model if you're on one of the higher tiers. I mean, without going into ChatGPT's kind of licensing, there's kind of a lower tier, which is what you and I would use.
Yeah.
So the only thing I would ever tell anybody is, if you're in that lower tier, you always want to go. If you're into the whole, if you're doing a lot of stuff for work and you're kind of doing it on the side, my recommendation is always going to be go into the settings, the little gear. Actually, I think it's just your profile, and then there's a settings gear in there. And then what you're going to want to do is just go to privacy or security. I'm on a Mac, so I don't know exactly how it works here. But yeah, here. So like it's down here with TJ Daily, and then I can go into settings. That was a little bit off the screen, but then if you go into data controls, like right now, see, you're improving the model for everyone.
So, I don't want to do that.
So you don't, right? I mean,
I don't want to do that. Turn it off.
Well, I mean, I think especially if you read like all the articles, so I'm going to turn it off.
I always say no when Apple says they're like, hey, you want to send your crash analytics? No.
Yeah.
I don't know why, just reflexive privacy.
Yeah, no, I don't do quite that, but like location services and other things, that kind of skeeves me out, so I'll turn a lot of that off. Yeah. But the data controls, it's like, if you're going to do things, there are certain things in here that I think might be helpful for other people. That's like kind of a Elon Musk Neuralink kind of conversation that we can have another day. But if you really want to like improve like the collective brain, then I'd say, some people are going to lean into that and turn it on. But if you turn it off, you're going to feel a lot better about, if you're doing like with your small business and you're going to put some information in there that you feel is proprietary, I'd always click it off. In the Teams version, which is like a step up, an enterprise, all that is automatically. It's a default. Don't train the model.
Okay. So we've talked about like how like we came up in the the internet rolling out, and that took from the early 90s to the late 90s to e-commerce and whatever, and that this is going much faster and has a bigger change.
So today is March 28th, is that right? Yeah, March 28th of 2025.
Like I feel like when the dot-com bubble popped or whatever, it's like, oh, I kind of missed that. I was 20 whatever and I didn't care,
Yeah.
Now it feels like there's it's a combination of like a gold rush and a threat and a whatever. It's just a massive shift going on. And I don't have a thing where I don't want to be late to the party, but I also don't want to just miss out on the fun and the value creation and everything that comes along with it.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Gates was saying all the way back in like 2012, 2015, like we don't have, this is a brand new show, so there's no fact checker, so we'll have to do that later. But all the way back then, like when he was doing commencement addresses and then like talking to the kids afterwards or like, going on to campuses and talking, what should, the question is always, well, what should I be getting into? Right. He was already saying, you need to get on AI. Like things are happening and it's going to explode. And if you don't have AI, if you're not working towards AI, like people are writing on the back of a napkin. I mean, I'm exaggerating a bit, but they're writing on the back of a napkin a business plan for what AI can do. And then they have the credentials to show that like they could probably build it. And they're getting ridiculous valuations for their company, not even pre-revenue, like pre-company, I mean, it's pretty crazy.
Where are you seeing that? Like in the private equity world?
No, not in private equity. That's more venture capital, like super early stage stuff. And it's articles that I've read.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Jim works in the private equity world. I actually didn't know there's a big difference between that and venture capital. I figured private equity might do startups. They don't do startups.
No, they typically, private equity...
save a company or find a thing that they can put money in and get a huge return.
I mean, there's different stages. They all play in different stages. So, but it's more established companies post-profitability.
Okay.
So they're looking for cash flow to buy.
Okay.
Versus a venture capitalist is looking for an idea, and they're going to place bets on lots of ideas and hope one of them like 40Xs or something.
But in private equity, just as an aside, it's the same kind of thing where a lot of bets don't work out.
Yeah.
But it's lower risk than venture capital overall?
I'd say it's low. Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely lower risk.
Larger dollars?
Larger, no.
Larger leverage?
Larger, I mean, I think that a lot of that's the strategy of a lot of private equity companies is, yes, we're going to make our dollars work harder through leverage. Absolutely.
Okay. Sorry. Aside.
It's like a finance quiz all of a sudden.
I feel like you should maybe teach me like, what do you think I should do? I've been in video for 20 years, right? Left corporate job 2 years ago. I have basically I'm doing like, I have quick term video production kind of products that I do in town here and some like nascent consulting stuff that are just kind of getting off the ground. I asked ChatGPT a little while ago to like write me I've had to write books all about video production stuff, which is pretty amazing. And then I asked it to write me like an 18-month plan. I boxed in how many hours a week I had. I said, make a weekly action item kind of thing based on this type of revenue stream model, I think, and it had me doing tasks in week 1 that would show up in week 10, sign up for this affiliate program, do this, whatever. Anyway, it was like this very weird experience to see it kick out. Hey, I'm starting a B2B consultancy. Just tell me what to do week by week for 18 months to get to this revenue number with this many hours of input with no employees. And it kicked it out like a 20-page action plan immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't do anything with it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just waiting.
So the question is, what do you think I should actually ask it to do that I would then follow?
Well, let's talk about it. I mean, if it's okay.
Or in some other context.
Well, no, not in another
Anything.
context. I think what you hit upon though is like the biggest thing about ChatGPT. We've talked about this before, and we keep saying ChatGPT. That's a brand. You could use Perplexity, Claude. I mean, like there's like a bunch of other ones. They all kind of have their own value prop, and we can talk about those some other day. But there's a lot of these large language models. ChatGPT is just the most well known because they kind of hit the market first, and then Microsoft invested in them and all of this stuff. So, just speaking about AI in general, what you asked. So, like, if you didn't know anything about consulting, like zero, and you wanted to start that, if you followed that plan, my guess is you would see, if you really followed it, like you were, just a dedicated person, put in the hours, all that stuff. If you followed it, you'd do pretty well, but you'd still learn a lot along the way. I think if you were like writing an ebook, or you wanted to create a Udemy course or something for other people to do this, you could start off with a prompt that was kind of simple like that took you through that. But if you had consulting experience and like knew how to grow a company in the past, or had done that, several times, you would be able to look at that first draft that it gave you and go, why would I do that in week 2? I would put all my eggs in this basket, so I'm going to have it change that. Oh, and then it'll come back and say something like, "Oh yeah, this is way smarter, and you sound like you've done this before." And so
that's really good because so when I do ask it to do things that are closer to my actual direct experience, like as in video instead of consulting about video, that's the reaction I have. I asked it about it was ChatGPT. By the way, I have 1,000 questions about. You're like, oh, there's perplexity. I have no idea what all this stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not it all operates literally like on the same machines, Well,
I don't know that it operates all on the same machines. I mean, Perplexity, for instance, is kind of like Meta. So you can choose the large language model that you want it to work off of.
Okay. But is it even helpful for me to know where the hell the models live? Probably not.
I mean, it's in a data center someplace with a whole bunch of expensive GPUs.
Okay. So when I asked it a specific question, like what are the media asset management problems a corporate video person's having like right now? It was correct. Like it spit out like a handful of major problems. But yeah, I was like, oh yeah, no. This is the one that everyone really has. This one is like secondary. This one, I know enough about it to know that it's like almost nobody even pays attention to the secondary problems. Most people don't even pay attention to the primary one.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, cross-referencing what you just said. If I have a lot of in-depth experience and then I ask it something, I can engage with it better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
I mean that's the whole thing. It's like it's as rich as you want it to be. That's why I say I'm a super user, because over time I'm like, man, that's not a great answer. It's all through experimentation, right? Like that's not a great answer. Maybe I read a few articles, but they don't lead me much anyplace. And so then all I've done over time is started to get more and more specific. And there are frameworks out there. And I'm actually trying to work on one of my own frameworks. Oh yeah, I can sit up a bit.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to double check how wide the shot was.
No, it's okay.
You're fine over there. I just want to make sure I didn't lose you.
Yeah, I mean, like I think there are frameworks that are pretty good. Ultimately, though, frameworks, I think they're really just, it's like Buddhism, man. They're like pointers to a thing, right? And so you can develop a framework, but you're gonna have to color outside of the lines a lot. If you just talk like you would talk, like I said, it's taking this thought from your brain, like all this, or settling down for a minute and getting that thought out as clearly as you can, and then putting a lot of context around your thought. So for instance, let's use your issue. Like, what were you actually trying to solve? Like, what were you seeking to get out of whatever that situation was about? I forget now. Media,
the asset management one.
Yeah, like
I was going to write something for LinkedIn or make a video about like it's one of the more exciting parts of media production to me, because you have pre-production, production, post-production, and asset management. And asset management is the one that just doesn't get any love, and it's cool and it's got a lot of opportunity. So I was like, well, maybe I should ask what are the pain points that I'm not understanding, or just want to make sure I didn't miss some large idea about it or whatever.
All right, can I say something stupid?
Yeah.
Is that like a content development network? Is that like a CDN? Is that what you use for asset management?
No, so there's in digital asset management, like small files and PDFs and documents and whatever, there's not a lot of data. Media asset management is the main differentiation is the large amounts of data and how fast you have to move it around and use it.
So what do you typically use for that?
I mean, I have a pretty simple system. I have a little NAS and 10 gig Ethernet and like my own little private cloud and 40 terabytes in this office. Later. But companies have servers and a mixture of cloud, on-prem, and like tape backup still. Because there's so much data.
Yeah, it's just a ton of data.
Ton of data.
And so you're interested in that, and you're interested in just solutions around it and like how you can do it as a smaller startup consultancy?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of like a value add in media production and in a way to attract and retain clients for production. And when it comes to consulting, it's like it's a huge ROI for people who just don't even look at that pillar of the building.
So what's the value add for the client?
It's so if like somebody who has like 20 employees in a video department, it's hard to sell, but the value add is you have a bunch of unused assets that can be used and collaborated and created with. Speed and value creation with your production assets.
So in other words, it's the access and availability and the searchability of
footage.
200 hours of footage.
It's hard to explain what a clown show the video world is.
Well, I mean, I can imagine. I mean, it's hard.
Because what happens is you get a bunch of people in a company, they start making stuff, they start putting it on drives and drawers. They have little servers that they mothball and put in a closet. Like it's really, even at like the petabyte level or whatever, I've heard stories about like large petabyte buckets of unknown assets moved over here. And so it's the thing that is not present. It's not front of mind. So somebody in communications is like, we need a video about the whatever. The last thing they want to do is invest in the long-term asset storage thing that leverages projects for years.
Right.
Like unless they're very forward thinking. So the problem is it's like it only shows up when somebody loses something, can't access it. There's a legal problem, there's a branding problem. That's when it shows up, and then they try to fix it.
So what's the target? What's the addressable market for that? Is that typically small to mid-sized businesses? I would imagine like enterprise. I mean, like
the market is huge.
I know, but like people like NBC.
So TV and features, they actually are very good at it.
They're good at it, right?
Yeah.
But it's like taking, hey, this is like a good process, and then like there's a bunch of people that don't even know that process is a process.
They don't even care.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they just think, oh, we filmed it, it's done.
Right. It's
we'll throw it away.
Yeah, it's very much like trying to figure out how much RAM your computers need or something. It's super nerdy. It's hard to see the value, and people react to the problems rather than proactively.
And so what was so going back to it now that we have a little context, like what basically was your prompt? I'm sure you can't remember it exactly.
What problems, what are the common problems that a corporate video department's having in media asset management in 2025?
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, in media asset management, that might have actually like really narrowed it in and made it start going out and thinking about media asset management versus the real problem is like, what are like just saying, it's like, what are the four problems? Like who manages? Is it an asset manager?
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Is it an asset manager who does it?
You're freaking me out right now, Jim. But
I'm just asking, is it an asset? What's the name? What's the title of this person at a company?
Probably a director of marketing or communications, really.
Yeah. So a director of marketing and communications, like what are the like 10 biggest problems that they talk about when it comes to their videos? So it's something a little broader.
Woo. Okay, so what you really just said, I think, this is melting my brain a little bit, Jim. So I know how to. I know the what I really just told you is I have a psychographic selling problem because it really is a high ROI investment for people who make a lot of video.
Right. But they don't care. I mean, I've worked with a ton of marketing people.
Yeah.
They care. I mean, the thing that they care about the most, and I'm not saying there's a ton of marketing folks that really understand ROI. That's just typically their understanding of ROI is going to be ROAS. So return on advertising spend. So they're working media dollars, right? Not
if it's a consumer.
I buy a tool and then what is the sales lift I need based on the contribution margin of the company to get X blah, blah. So instead of like thinking about it in terms of break even, they just say, I need this tool that makes my life easier. So, I mean, a lot of other departments outside of like real true financy guys who go and think like I just said.
Yeah.
You know, because they're trained to think that way. People are just like, you're really just marketing a solution to a problem. So like if you write something about on LinkedIn or something, or if you ask ChatGPT, let's take it back to that, because I think that's what this is supposed to be about. You really, I think, don't want to go so narrow as to say media asset management.
Of course.
You want to say, are you tired of, searching for storage because, I got a solution. And who cares what the solution is? It's just you need to get it to talk to you, and then.
Okay, so you've actually So the truth here's the. So this is so good. The product, the benefit of it is almost impossible to see and to sell, but the benefit, if not technical, is easier to sell. But the truth is, like, if the best thing I could use ChatGPT for would be like, take a marketing director at a mid-sized industrial firm who's not making advertising. They're making webcasts, internal communications, executive communications. And they're working with vendors who make the occasional sizzling release, and they make demos and products launches and, employee HR stuff and whatever. Take that person who's got $2.7 million to spend on media creation and has a team of 18 or whatever. Ask them, or tell me a way to get underneath the real emotional problems that they're having and put media asset management front of mind when they don't think that helps them respond to the needs of the business.
Yeah, and it's like you could abstract it. That's
the real problem, though.
Yeah, so you don't even have to. I would just say, like,
it's really
just
crazy.
Knowing the people I talk to, I mean, like media asset management. Yeah, some of them might want to know that because they want to sound, super
no one wants to know it. I'm with you. Like, nobody wants to know what it is.
But they do want to be.
They barely want the solution to the problem.
Do you want to save money and make your content creation go farther?
So no shit, you have to think 3 to 5 years out to even get there.
Okay.
Because you have to say, do I want to save money in the long term? Do I want to not look dumb or not be able to fulfill a request 2 years from now when someone says, let's make a recap of the last 2 years? Like, if you don't think far ahead and you don't, like, and that has to be more important than buying new workstations, buying new staff, making new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you're really describing this very, the real obvious answer is don't do it.
What? Don't do media asset management?
I shouldn't try to help people with the problem.
Maybe not. I mean, like, especially when, everything is so kind of, I don't know if I'm going to use the wrong word, ephemeral. I mean, like, it just like, it just happens and then it's gone, right?
Well, sometimes like there's just waste because of human behavior.
Yeah.
Like what I was just saying, you have to be very forward thinking and not use the money for things that are easier to see, have a direct impact on a business in the short term or medium term. Like, that is the problem.
Yeah, no, so I think your market got smaller though through the conversation, because I do think there's a group of people out there that think just like you. But they don't, again, they're at like these, I don't know, maybe larger private equity companies or just larger mid-market companies that are just like at the tipping point of enterprise. And the enterprise folks are the ones that really want to do it because they've got all the spare cash. Like usually they have just like a ton, like a war chest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so with that war chest, they're looking for ways to deploy that capital, right? They don't want to sit on cash. I mean, typically companies that size don't want to.
I have an idea because we only have about 10 more minutes. Let's ask what you did. Okay, what you just said is like a whole. I want to bring chat. I want the AI to be a character here in the show.
I think since I use it more, I really think
You
should do it. Yeah.
Well, so you just said something very smart about private equity people needing to deploy capital.
Well, and it's not just private equity. It's
Okay,
just
whatever.
large businesses, like businesses that are doing well, have done well for a long time.
Yeah.
What they typically do is they say, well, how do I deploy my cash? I mean, it's just like people. Like, how many financial advisors, you know, at our age, we talk to those. So how many financial advisors have you talked to that are like, hey, well, you have too much in cash? And you're like, no, that's my security fund. Well, companies kind of have a security fund,
Mm-hmm.
but what they really want to do is say, hey, we don't want to sit on all this cash because that cash is worth hardly anything, right? Barely keeps up with inflation. So the best use of the investor's money, right? Because all those retained earnings are really the investor's money. Like you either give them back to the investors so they can go through dividends, so they can go do things, or you deploy that cash through different projects in a company through capital allocation.
Okay, so let's pretend you're actually at work and you actually have that problem, right?
Yeah. So if you're a marketing department and you're, you know, like, so again, your market's narrowed because you know you're at like the upper end of the mid market or enterprise.
Well, let's leave the asset management thing because nobody cares.
Okay, sure.
What I'm curious is like, what business problems do you think this AI can solve that I wouldn't try to solve with it?
I mean, I think I'm like where I would start is like for the world of video.
I want to find every video editor within 30 miles of here.
Oh, okay. That's, yeah.
Can I just, I tried that before and it said like it wouldn't scrape the internet for information. That was like a year ago or something.
Yeah, well, that's when it gets really cool. And if you know a little bit about other things, so this again is
Okay, how
like
do I
the
do
wisdom. So like the first thing you'd want to do is say, hey, and this would have related to your other one too. So this is good.
All right.
So the way I would frame it up, and now since they have projects, I'd probably start a project. Don't do that for time's sake. But the first thing I would do is explain what ChatGPT is in this case. So what is ChatGPT doing for you?
I want ChatGPT to find all the video editors within 30 miles, and then I want to segment them.
Okay.
And I want to try to find variables that will help me find a very specific psychographic.
Okay, so this is going to be so we can do a longer format on just this.
Okay.
But what I would tell you is the first thing I would do is say, you're not a web scraper, right? You're not. You don't know how to scrape the web yourself, do you?
Oh, no, I do not.
Okay, so that's what ChatGPT is. So the first thing I would do in a prompt, and I wouldn't like do a whole bunch of other stuff, I would just say, you are a web scraping specialist with 15 years of experience and understand small to mid-sized businesses, the resources and capabilities that they have available to them.
I'm telling ChatGPT that this is who they are?
Yes. So you're going to define its role.
You are a web scraping specialist with 15 years of experience.
And you stay up to date on all the latest trends. You're also very pragmatic and understand the maturity level of companies at various sizes. You are now working with a small consulting firm who wants to do a light web scraping project.
Okay, your client is a small consulting firm.
who wants to do a light web scraping project to find all of the videographers,
Video editors who wants to do a light
web scraping project to find all the video editors within a 20-mile radius of
Littleton, Colorado.
Littleton, Colorado. There you go. What tools would you recommend for the business owner who is a layman to accomplish this?
What tools would you recommend for an entry-level entrepreneur?
Entry-level entrepreneur who wants to accomplish this on their own for a low cost. And that's what I would start with. I think what you're going to see it kick out is it's going to give you like 3 or 4 different ideas, and it's going to say, hey, here's a low kind of cost, here's a mid. If you're a little bit more advanced, I'd try this.
Web scraping tools for a small consulting firm that wants to find all video editors within. Here are some pragmatic and cost-effective web scraping tools. Okay, and it lists, Beautiful Soup, Python. They're all Python things, it says.
Correct. And that's why I was leading you down that road. So now, and we don't have time for this, but it might be cool.
You're going to tell me to write a program?
It'll write Python for you. And then you'll say, wait a second, I don't even know how to run Python. And it'll say, oh, let's go. And so then my next prompt is, all right, step by step, like and I usually say something like I'm in 12th grade or maybe 10th grade, because it'll adjust, how it talks to you.
Based on how old it thinks you are?
Based on how old you tell it to be on that prompt. So if you say, hey, I'm a 12th grader, I've got no experience with computer coding, I need a step-by-step to get like an editor on my, computer, so I know how to run the code. And then I'm going to need your help generating the code. And that's what I would do. Now,
I'm a 12th grader with no experience in computer coding. I need a step-by-step process to
install Python and an environment to begin using it. I don't know why you're looking at me like that.
I don't even know what you mean.
So Python is like
a language, right?
It's one of the most common computer languages right now. Has been for a while.
Download and install Python this way. Verify installation. Install a code editor, recommended VS Code.
Mm-hmm.
Install Python extension for VS Code. Verify your setup. So I would do all that myself.
You would.
Install useful libraries.
Uh-huh.
Try your first script. Run it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then so it says, actually, you've installed Python, set up an environment, run your first script. So like, is the next thing I'm going to say is like, help me figure out how to make a script to scrape the web and find all the video editors.
Yeah. And then what it'll end up leading you to do is, sign up for Google Maps and get like a free, there's like they'll give you like a free trial, and then they'll give you an API key. You plug the API key into the, it writes all of the Git code for the API, and then you drop it all into this script. And again, now like your computer program is going to have some problems. You're going to run into installation problems on Python. And then whenever you do that, you just, I forget on a Mac, but you just take a screenshot of it.
Okay.
Like if the code bombs out on you, or if you can't install Python.
Yeah.
It's basically, and I know we're out of time.
Well, let me just ask a question. I just want to summarize this a little bit.
Yeah.
I named a problem that I thought ChatGPT couldn't solve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was just too complex. It wasn't a large language model problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said, well, you're going to have to start I have to start a computer science shop and build a tool.
Yep.
And so I said, ChatGPT is going to tell me how to build the tool. Then I'm going to follow instructions and or tell it to do stuff I think it can just do.
And it will.
And it will do that.
Yep.
Like it'll say, here's your script. And I'll say, what's a script? And it'll explain that to me if I need it to be.
Yeah, and a script is just the code. It's a scripting language, so it's just a code. So you don't even really need to know what it is. You can even say, hey, I got this VCE editor or whatever it said. I've got it open. Now what?
So within an hour or something of futzing around, I would have a piece of software that I wrote or I had help writing.
Yes.
That would run locally on my machine and would perform the task.
There's actually a whole thing right now. I forget who coined it, but it's called vibe programming or vibe coding. And I don't know, I really don't understand the genesis of the word vibe. But anyway, what it means is like all these people, it's like a cottage industry of people that are like downloading Swift and different, computer language. Like that's an iOS. I don't know if they even still call it that. I might be dating myself. Who knows? But there's all these languages develop apps on phones. And they're explaining what they want their app to do. They're like you. They have no coding experience, no knowledge. And then it just kicks out some code. And it might be buggy, but they just keep asking questions and working through it. And ChatGPT will go, oh, yeah, I can see why that might be wrong. We didn't define this variable at the beginning. And on and on and on.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. First of all, that was awesome, and I just learned a lot, right? But here's what I really want to do. I want to come to work or in my life anywhere and understand that I have like some version of 1, 5, 200, 2,000 like pieces of help.
Mm-hmm.
And then before I try to do something, basically, I think you're describing becoming, it's almost like skipping freelancing, solo business, and entry-level business. And you should just start pretending like you have 30 people on your team.
Yes. The only constraint is just how fast you can prompt and like load this stuff and like over time.
I don't think that's the constraint. I can't even think like that.
Yeah. So
build me a finance function.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying that goes back to the very beginning of the conversation, and maybe it's a good place to end. It's like, this is proof of why there still has to be a human in the loop, because the more, like, I've got 20 years of knowledge, and not just in finance, right? Like in all aspects of business. And like we talked a little bit about advertising. I know this much about marketing, media, and advertising compared to you and a lot of other folks. But I know enough to be dangerous, so I can ask some good questions. You would ask ChatGPT, based on your experience, much richer questions about very particular things. And then the whole art is just trying to get it to, output what you're looking for in a way that, somebody like you would understand. And you can just keep chipping away at it. It's tinkering. It's just playing with it. It's how I learned Excel.
That's the real jam. That's how you learned Excel, is that what you said?
That's how I learned Excel.
So it's really about being curious and trying to figure out what it might be able to do.
Mm-hmm. And it's a huge change. And so, I can hear all the people out there right now going, oh yeah, this is so scary and it's taking my job and this and that and the other. I'm just wired. That's just who I am. I'm just wired to be really curious and to just keep learning about this stuff. And I don't know, and not everybody's like that. So who knows? Maybe one of the things we can do here is try to just show people how they can add a ton of value in life or at work, and, maybe free up some of their time to do the things they really want to do.
Well, I learned a lot. I always learned a lot talking to you. It was fun to kind of record one of these conversations because it's just fun to share it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of folks out there that
almost everybody.
I don't know.
I know. I think you're the only person I know who is applying AI all over the place. You're like a covered wagon guy in like Homestead Act times.
I'm going to California.
Okay, I gotta go have coffee.
All
Kevin.
Right. Jim just got dysentery. He's dead. Oregon Trail.
Oh.
Yeah. covered wagon.
They all got dysentery?
That was a big thing in Oregon Trail, man. You'd like somebody like Susie always got dysentery right around Kansas, and you lost one of the crew.
We'll have to cover that next time.
Yeah.
On the AI Garage. I don't like that name anymore. I don't know.
We don't have to call it that.
Tinkering. Goodbye.
Bye. I don't know. Could be good. Felt a lot more natural.